Your City Council.
Councilmember Staggers.
Present.
Anderson.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Kylie.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Thank you very much, Council. Appreciate it. In Sioux Falls, we start our meetings with an invocation. Very, very blessed to have Pastor Lee Statham here. Pastor Lee, welcome. He is from St. John American Lutheran Church. And what we'd ask you to do is to stand for the pastor's invocation and to remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Lee.
We lift our prayers to you, gracious God. With the psalmist, we say, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." We say, "Who satisfies you with good as long as you live." It is your love that astounds us, and we don't have to earn it. And there is more that is good. In this setting, we thank you for Sioux Falls, for citizens, leaders, present, past, and future. Help us to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before you, O God. Give us such an awareness of your mercies that with thankful hearts we praise you, not only with our lips, but in our lives, by giving ourselves to your service and living in your gifts of holiness and righteousness all our days. To God be the glory. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's City Council meeting. Certainly glad to have you here. And I have a proclamation on behalf of these folks. And before we get started, could you just introduce yourself, please, to the people of our town?
Certainly. Colleen Hone. I'm board chair of the National Kidney Foundation Sioux Falls Board.
Deb Kavanaugh, co-chair of the National Kidney Foundation.
Jean Dickey, community outreach manager, staff member for the National Kidney Foundation.
Thank you all for being here tonight. The proclamation reads, whereas there are an estimated 26 million Americans with kidney disease, and most don't know they have it. Whereas it is critical that attention be brought to this often overlooked but increasingly common disease, whose major factors are diabetes, high blood pressure, a family history of kidney failure, and an age over 60. Untreated, kidney disease can lead to kidney failure. Whereas the month of March is National Kidney Month, and March 10th, 2016 is World Kidney Day. The National Kidney Foundation, the leading organization in the U.S. dedicated to the awareness, prevention, and treatment of kidney disease, is calling on all Americans to take care of their kidneys and get tested if they are at risk. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim March 10th, 2016 as World Kidney Day in Sioux Falls. Thank you so much for being here today. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Any comments?
Thank you very much. I just want one statement. With World Kidney Day being March 11th, we are doing an open house at the Overlook Cafe, and the falls are turning orange that evening for awareness for those 26 million Americans. So if you get the opportunity, please stop by. The rest of our board of directors from Sioux Falls will be there as well. Thursday, March 10th.
One more time.
Thursday, March 10th, we will have an event at the Overlook Cafe. I also would like to say that these folks have a special reason to make awareness of World Kidney Day. Jean Dickey is a 2-time kidney transplant recipient, and Deb Kavanaugh gave a kidney to her mother. So they both have lived through much of this. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great job. Thank you. Thank you, Deb. Ronnie.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. You bet. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Council, thank you. We'll now move to our consent agenda. Any motions, changes?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Bach has made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. If no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Now our regular agenda. Any changes to that?
Move for approval.
Second.
Councilor Colley has made a motion to approve our agenda tonight, seconded by Councilor Karski. Thank you, Councilor. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Council, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Folks, welcome to tonight's council meeting. We're certainly pleased to have you here. Great opportunity for you to engage the council on any topic that you think is important to our town. Just 2 requests. Introduce yourself to the people of our town, and then if you could keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, the council would appreciate that. Anybody interested? Well, thank you. We're certainly still pleased to have you here. We really appreciate it. We'll now move on to item number 7.
Item 6.
We'll go to 7, please.
7, okay. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving a grant of pipeline easement.
Thank you. Diane, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, do you want to go? Okay, sorry about that. I'm appearing here tonight on behalf of Public Works. With me is Dustin Hansen, Superintendent of the Sioux Falls Regional Sanitary Landfill, and also Mark Cotter, Director of Public Works. The reason we're here is concerning Dakota Access Pipeline's request for a 25-foot easement. Excuse me. Oh, I thought, are we doing the pipeline easement first or the electric?
Electric
Oh,
transmission
I
first.
thought you skipped ahead. I heard Denise say pipeline. I'm sorry.
My apologies.
Okay, no problem. What's the other one's on? It's on the desk. This item involves a 50-foot wide electric transmission easement to XL Energy within the City of Sioux Falls. The area involved is a transmission line at Veterans Memorial Park. And by way of background, this property, I guess Mark's just putting it up. This property, in the early 1940s, the city obtained the property as part of the acquisition for the Army Air Base, and the Army Air Base then was using the property until after World War II, and then the City of Sioux Falls has used this part of it since then. Obviously, also a good number of parts of it went for residential use as well. Excuse me, I don't know about my voice here. In the early 1940s, the City of Sioux Falls granted Northern States Power the right to construct, maintain, and operate a transmission line over streets and alleys within the former Army Air Base property. A portion of that land is now Veterans Park. In the 1960s, thank you. In the 1960s, the city installed a sanitary sewer line adjacent to the electric transmission line. Last summer, Xcel Energy, of course that's formerly NSP, replaced wooden poles with metal poles and upgraded the line from a 69 kV to 115 kV line. It moved in the process of doing it, it moved its line away from the sanitary sewer line. They were both quite close together. As a result, in making the move, the easement needed to be changed as to where the Xcel Energy easement would be. This will not affect the use of the park. The poles are up. They are metal poles now instead of wood poles. It's part of an overall upgrade for Xcel Energy throughout what they call the northern loop for the city. The grant of the easement is supported by Public Works and by the Parks and Recreation Department and the Parks and Recreation Board.
Diane, thank you. Folks, did anybody want to speak to this item? It is a second reading. Very good. Council.
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Karski. If there is no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Council, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 8.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving a grant of pipeline easement.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I need to recuse myself.
Thank you, Councilor Erickson. Councilor Erickson is going to recuse herself on this item. Diane.
Thank you. I've introduced the key city people from Public Works that are involved in review of this matter. I would also advise you that Dakota Access Pipeline does have two representatives here, Joey Mahmood and Mike, also with Dakota Access Pipeline. As you're aware, federal and state agencies have comprehensive authority over the routing and the safety and the inspection of oil pipelines. This is a crude oil pipeline that takes oil from the Bakken Formation through to Illinois, and state and federal regulatory authorities have comprehensive inspection and safety criteria. Due to those laws, the city cannot require a different route or veto the project. That's basic federal and state law. The state PUC has authority to approve the route. Federal safety inspection criteria is in federal law. So the city's role actually in this whole matter then is twofold. First, we have the right to go to the PUC and participate in the routing process, the hearings that were held by the PUC last fall. We did participate. We had the right to present evidence for or against the pipeline. We went to the PUC hearings and we advised the PUC that we would not object so long as the PUC adopted conditions that protected the natural features and the installed fixtures at the city's landfill. Dakota Access agreed to those conditions. The permit was issued by the PUC and it included those conditions. Those conditions included matters such as Dakota Access and installing the pipeline along the edge of the city's landfill cannot obstruct workers and customers at the landfill. They must reimburse us for any damage. The pipeline must be at least 4 feet below the surface. It provided for an additional 2-foot distance where it crosses with our city's landfill gas pipeline. Those are examples of the kinds of conditions. So we went to the PUC, we participated, the PUC granted the permit. Then the issue tonight, the sole issue tonight, is whether to grant Dakota Access Pipeline an easement for 25 feet of the city's property. It's 25 feet because it straddles the boundary with another property owner. Normally these easements are 50 feet easements. As stated, it would run along the west boundary of the landfill, which, as you know, is about 5 miles west of the city. The route is a route that we talked to Dakota Access about over a year ago. They approached us for an easement. We talked to them about the pipeline route. They actually agreed to a minor deviation and filed that with the PUC, and that's incorporated in the PUC's proceeding. So they agreed to a minor change in the route to accommodate our interests. The area involved would be outside the working area of the landfill where, where solid waste is handled. As part of the permanent easement, Dakota Access Pipeline and its successors in interest, if there are any, if it ever sells its interest, are obligated, as long as the pipeline remains in place, to maintain $10 million in pollution insurance with the city as an additional named insured. They are also obligated to indemnify the city if the city should be sued for any reason by any third parties for the acts of Dakota Access. They would also be required upon issuance of the permanent easement to pay the City of Sioux Falls $24,638 for the easement. And that easement, as I indicated, was a 25-foot strip, so we're looking at a little over half an acre of land. I just want to go real quick to some materials that were requested at the first reading in this matter, and that is right there. The council did request a map showing the oil and gas pipelines in Sioux Falls. Those are the major companies that we were able to identify from state and federal databases. And I would point out to you on the lower left-hand side, you'll see a brown line that extends from the landfill down to the bottom of the map. That's the city's own landfill gas pipeline. Dakota Access Pipeline, of course, is the black and red one that goes also along the west side of the landfill. And then the other ones are the commercial lines that are within the city. And then also, you asked for a list of reported spills. There are a couple of databases. One is the federal database. Another one is the South Dakota DENR database. We use the DENR database because it is more specific to Sioux Falls. The federal database publishes information only for the state as a whole. As you can see, there have been spills over the years. Williams Pipeline Company has been involved in that. Williams is now Magellan. And then I thought, you know, in the interest of making sure it's clear to all what is going on in the area or what has happened in the area, that I did include one larger leak that occurred outside the city boundaries, and that is more in the Renner area. It occurred in 1992, or it was discovered in 1992, when there was a hairline fracture along a weld in a pipe that had been installed in 1946, and that was also a Williams Magellan pipeline. I just didn't want to not disclose that because it's a significant, or of more significance in the area, and that's still being monitored. Sensors and remote equipment were installed at the time after the spill, and I would point out that in this case, the Dakota Access Pipeline, being a modern pipeline and with the new safety criteria in place, will of course have those things in place when it's installed. So I do want to ask Mark Cutter to come forward. He had a couple of additional items.
Thank you, Diane. I just wanted to represent, there's been a number of meetings with Public Works and City Attorney's Office with Dakota Access Pipeline. They've been very professional, very responsive to our requests, and we are here to support this easement. We would ask you for your support.
Mark, thank you. Diane, thank you as well. Folks, again, a second reading, so you have the opportunity to speak to this item. Is anybody interested in doing that? Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. My name's Peggy Hogestraat. I'm a landowner in Minnehaha County.
Pull them right down to you.
Here. Okay.
How's that?
Great. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight. Mr. Jameson, one of the questions you had asked for was this map, and I appreciate showing where some of these lines were. They were also discussed at the PUC hearings, and I'm not sure if it includes all of the same ones or not, but I do have that information as far as the history as well. One of the comments made a week ago, as Mr. Anderson was sharing some of the conversation he had with Mr. Hanson, was that Dakota Access has been less than truthful at some points. And a statement I'd like to make in regards to that is falsehood often contains enough truth to mislead those who lack discernment. So I would just ask that you would make sure discernment is a part of your decisions in the easement. How have South Dakota citizens been treated? I have a whole list, which in 5 minutes I really can't share with you. But personally, I was sued twice before the PUC even made their decision in the Dakota Access Pipeline permit. And its negotiations with the pipeline company have been very difficult for the remaining landowners that have had easement agreements to come to with the pipeline company. It's been quite a struggle and very expensive. Ms. Erpenbach, when you asked about the number of landowner easements that there are, from day one, that's been a very hard question to answer. Dakota Access has provided percentages, but they've never presented a list of the landowners included in those percentages. So we've never had any proof. And I don't know that the PUC even has that list yet themselves. There's no proof this oil will be beneficial to South Dakota, and with the federal ban that's been lifted on exports, I personally feel South Dakota is just going to be a path for the oil to go to other countries. We have 5 minutes here to share things with you. Many landowners had 5 minutes to share testimony at the PUC hearing. That's very unfortunate for our state. Dakota Access has not been good to South Dakota citizens. They haven't been good to our state. And there's just a lot of concerns. I just ask that you be sure to have done your research before you make your final decision on the second reading and have a clear conscience in your decision in regards to not only the easement agreement, but also as the construction proceeds, because there's things that you need to really be aware of and protect yourself with. I myself had changes done to the basic agreement because it was very, how would you say, beneficial for the pipeline company, but not good for the landowner. So I just ask that you consider everything involved for the people you represent, and I just ask that you protect the people that rely on you to protect them in their everyday lives. Thanks for your time.
Peggy, thank you as well. We appreciate it. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Well, thank you, Peggy. We appreciate that. Council, it's in your hands. Councilor Ermbach.
Thank you. Diane, could you, because this is going along the property line, we're only getting 25 feet of a 50-foot easement, correct?
Right, and then I should probably amplify on that a little bit. The permanent easement would be the 25 feet, and then they have also asked for additional working area for the
construction area.
For the construction, right, the temporary.
And remind me how long the 25 feet is. It's 25 feet wide, but how long is it?
Oh, I'd have to look at just a minute. 730 feet.
730 feet by
Thank you.
25 feet wide. Thank you, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the help from the back. Then my question, Diane, is if we're getting the 25 feet on our side of the line, basically the 25 feet that's on the other side of the property line, then has that easement been granted already? Do you know?
I asked Dakota Access when they came in this evening, and they advised me that they had secured that easement.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Councilor, thank you. Yeah, Councilor Staggers.
Yes, maybe somebody from the pipeline company could tell us if you've used eminent domain so far.
Sure, and thank you. My name is Joey Mahmood. I'm with Energy Transfer. I'm our Senior Vice President over the project, and so all the project has been being executed on my direction. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council members, for having us here. For eminent domain, we have filed certain eminent domain cases. That is true. We have resolved almost all of them at this point. We have signed executed easements on 92% of the route, actually 92.7%, and we are at 99% with agreements in principle waiting for either checks to be delivered or people to come in and sign. So we're down to about 1%. That's 7 tracks, 6 landowners.
Six landowners?
Yes, sir. And it's about a little bit over 500 tracks. I don't have the exact number in my head, so we're down to 7 tracks, 6 landowners.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Councilor Staggers, thank you. Councilor Jameson, sir.
Question for Diane. I see her. There she is. I didn't see her behind you there. So, Diane, the conditions that you had included at the PUC meeting, the $10 million insurance, the 4 feet underground, no obstructions, and the indemnification, in the money, are those all kind of in line with what all the other landowners have received, or is that over? Or is there any extras there for us that are maybe above and beyond?
The 10 mil, most of those conditions that you just listed are ones that the PUC required. Like the 4 feet is what Dakota Access came in to start with and said they would go ahead and go with a 4-foot depth. And that is a greater depth than actually what the federal government requires. So more, or more safe, if you want to put it that way. The $10 million is a negotiated insurance amount that we negotiated for our easement. So that is specific to Sioux Falls. And I do not know about the insurance terms for other landowners, but would say this. In addition to the $10 million, we have a clause in our easement requiring Dakota Access Pipeline to hold us harmless from all damages to our land. And the PUC also has a hold harmless clause in its conditions. So I guess there's kind of belt and suspenders here, but there is a PUC clause that is designed to protect all landowners against damage to their property. There's a hold harmless type clause there.
The only issue I would sense that I've kind of had about this is that the damage it could do to our landfill, and the landfill is tremendously expensive to create, and if it were to become flooded or some, catastrophe like that, is $10 million enough? Having it next to an item like this, a utility like this for our city versus just out in a field somewhere.
Right. It is away from the working area of the landfill, sufficient that when we looked at it with our engineers, we determined that our digging and excavation activities at the landfill would not impinge on the pipeline, and that leaks from the pipeline were unlikely, or the construction in the pipeline was unlikely to impinge on the working part of the landfill. Now, one thing about the landfill is that the Department of Environment and Natural Resources requires as part of our landfill permit that we actually have a monitoring well at various sites around the landfill to determine whether our whether the leachate liquid from the landfill is migrating outward from the landfill into other areas or into the groundwater. And that water well is in one of those groundwater monitoring wells, not production well, but monitoring wells, is on the northwest side of the landfill. And that's kind of marked with a blue dot up there, and the pipeline will go right by it. So if there are leaks in that area and we see petroleum in our well, we know we have a problem fairly early on. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay. I just wanted to point out the inner yellow line on the landfill is actually our permit boundary. That's where we can go with waste, and that's approximately 300 feet from our property boundary to the west. We're approximately 300 feet from their pipeline.
And sir, could you introduce yourself to the people of our town?
Dustin Hanson, landfill superintendent.
Thank you, Dustin.
Sorry, Dustin, I didn't mean to shut you out. But anyway, yeah, so we do have a monitoring well there that is close to where the pipeline would be actually entering our property. And so we think that provides us some reassurance. And the permanent easement also provides that if Dakota Access were to have a leak that caused petroleum to impact the working of our well, they would have to reimburse us for repair or replacement of the well as well.
Councilor Jameson.
If I could, just as a matter of structure, because I'm curious about these kinds of things, when we made these conditions agreed to with the PUC, was it then, if the PUC agreed to approve the pipeline, do we really have any grounds here to vote against this? Seems like it's an automatic if we've already agreed to those conditions with the PUC, and if they agreed to then pass it. I'm just structurally trying to understand this.
Right. Well, the PUC did agree to those conditions. They ordered those conditions. They are conditions on the permit. If the City of Sioux Falls were to decline to grant an easement, then Dakota Access Pipeline there is very little choice. Dakota Access Pipeline would either maybe have to consider a slight reroute and secure more easement area from the neighbor. I don't know if the PUC would have to go back and to hearings on that or not. Another thing that they could do is, as they have done to other property owners, is proceed to court with the condemnation. It's obviously not the most desirable thing for the City of Sioux Falls. Or if there are other additional conditions that the City Council thinks are appropriate, they would be things that Dakota Access would have to consider whether to accept those as part of the easement negotiations. But at the present time, I think we worked hard on developing some good indemnity language, some good insurance language, environmental protections, and frankly, I think we're there.
Okay. Councilor Rolfing.
Thank you. Joey, I've gotten a number of phone calls and some emails this week and last week about this pipeline, indicating that, and we've been told, and I'm sure rightfully so, that you've just been very good to work with from the city standpoint. However, I've got some comments and calls from constituents. Well, I really can't even say constituents. They're people outside that are along the pipeline who indicate that they've felt they've been kind of strong-armed a little bit, if you will. Can you tell us what your procedure is when you start talking to people about the right-of-way, doing that kind of thing, and just exactly what you're paying people for this?
So I can answer most of that. I think the payment terms are mostly confidential with individuals. I would hate to violate their confidentiality.
Okay.
I don't know that that's an appropriate thing to talk about in a public forum.
Oh, I meant in a general sense, not individuals.
In a general sense, we're paying market value, in some instances more. Our easement negotiations on how we actually come up with that is we do market studies. Once the market study is concluded, we actually do individual land appraisals, meaning we send, just like you would for an appraisal of a home, we do an appraisal for the property that determines the market value. Once that market value is determined, we bring that to the landowner. We offer them the fair market value of the easement. And I'll tell you, the market value that we offer is the full value of the easement. So how an easement works, if nobody has an easement on their property, an easement, the landowner retains the ownership of the property. They use it for most everything that they would have except for permanent structures on that easement. So they're getting paid for the fair market value of that. They retain the ownership and plus the any value for temporary easement of that easement value or acreage that we would utilize to construct the pipeline. So at a minimum, it's fair market value, and that varies based on county and location. Obviously, land's more valuable or has a higher market value in the Sioux Falls area than it does in the northern parts in the middle of ag country. And then ag country also has a sliding scale of valuation depending on where it is and the quality of the land, et cetera. So, but we do go through a very detailed evaluation, and we provide all that information to the landowners. When we do the routing, so the evaluation and the notifications to the landowners, it actually begins at the very beginning of the project. Once we do the routing study, we call it macro routing. Then when we get to the level of what we call micro routing, that's when we notify all the landowners. So we're required, actually, under the state law for the PUC, we have to notify all the landowners on the tax roll. So when we go out, that's how we generate our list. We go to the counties, we get the landowners' names from the tax rolls, and we either call them initially, then we send out letters soliciting access to survey. That's the first communication. From there, once we've identified, the route will actually reside on that piece of property. Even this is a year and a half before where we are today, by the way, actually almost 2 years. We've asked that individual, family or business, whoever owns the property, in this case the city, is it possible for us to start to negotiate or talk about an easement? So it happens very early on, and if we can avoid certain properties for whatever reason, there's a lot of different reasons we will. In a lot of cases, if the micro routing suggests that the pipeline should be there because there's upstream or downstream constraints that kind of force the route to be in a certain location, then we start to talk about it with the landowners. So the landowners actually have many, many touches along the way. It is unfortunate. Not everybody is a fan of the project. We realize that. You're dealing with personal property rights that are very sensitive, and they should be. And so you do reach, unfortunately, an impasse in certain circumstances. And it's those situations where you reach an impasse is why, in the state we have there's eminent domain laws in this state as well as in the country to allow the routing and development of utilities to serve the general public. So that's the process we go through. Most people, when we went to the PUC hearings, I think we were, yes, sir?
Council, I'm going to just caution us. The topic at hand is the 700 feet times the 25 feet. If I could just encourage us to focus on that, I'd appreciate that. And I think that's the appropriate thing to do in this particular case. Now, whether you want to bring your own personal feelings in terms of how this has been handled and other things like that, I think it's up to you. But I do think we should stay focused on, it says, the ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls approving grant of a pipeline easement. That's our easement, not the rest of South Dakota's.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Karski?
With that in mind, and I do feel for the people that maybe feel they were handled improperly or strong-armed or whatever, our role tonight is to look at what is in front of us, We are granting an easement on city property. I feel our legal staff has done an adequate job, a more than adequate job. And with that in mind, I'm going to move to approve this item.
Second, Erpenbach.
There's been a motion to approve item number 8. Has been seconded. Other discussion. Councilor Anderson Jr., sir.
Thank you for still being there, Joey.
Yes, sir.
Just some questions on the pipeline itself. Your sensors, that they monitor pressure within the pipe, I take it?
Yes, sir. We do have sensors that monitor pressure, temperature, flow rates.
What's the distance between those sensors?
It varies.
Okay, we're talking about this easement. So in this easement area, how many sensors are in the area or longer?
Well, we have 9 valves. So the sensors are mostly located at valves or pump stations. So there's 31 valves in the state of South Dakota. And so I'm going to try to...
Joey.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be very specific here, sir. We're talking about 700 feet. That's what I want you to talk about.
So there are no valves on the 700 feet.
That's what Councilor Anderson Jr. asked you. So stay focused on the 700, okay?
Sure. Yes, sir.
So in that pipeline area, how soon would you be able to detect a leak?
So without offending the mayor, I have to expand the discussion because the sensors are upstream and downstream. There's 9 in the Sioux Falls area. So when you notice that there's a pressure differential from valve 1 to valve 2, it takes about 9 or so minutes to affect a sensor going off to the time the valve closes. So that's about the time. And the valve can close within several minutes.
So, you said there was 9 in this area?
Yes, sir.
Valves? So if there was a leak and it was detected, then there's going to be a couple valves closing so that there's no flow in that area anymore, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then what's the life cycle of the pipe that you're going to be putting in?
The pipe
we're talking lifetime easements here, so.
Right, and it could be, lifetimes. With the modern technology that we have to protect the pipe from cathodic protection, the pipe, as long as it's maintained properly and you maintain those cathodic protections, the steel can last forever.
If I may, Mayor? Okay. Basically, all of our fuel stations and everything in Sioux Falls that have gas pumps and things like that are double-lined. Are these pipes double-lined or are they single-lined?
No, they're single-line but heavier wall. And I have actually brought somebody because if you want a very technical answer, we have our chief engineer who can answer that. But they're single-walled, designed to withstand the pressures and the rigidity that is necessary for this pipeline.
Okay. And then the one question I just have to go, how long will these pipes last? Just number of years is what I'm looking for.
Again, it could be 100 years, as long as the pipeline is maintained and you maintain the integrity protection, meaning you do not let the pipeline corrode. As long as you're maintaining your corrosion protection, the pipe could literally last for eternity. It has to be maintained. So as soon as you remove that, then you start to get the steel degradation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Anderson Jr., very, very good job. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
No.
Anderson?
No.
Erickson? Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
No.
That has passed 4-3. Item that has failed. Is that right? That has failed 4-3. Item 9.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property north of I-90 and east of North Marion Road from the AG Agricultural District to the CN Conservation C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar and I-2 Heavy Industrial Districts, petition number 4173, 2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls.
Jason Bieber, representing Planning and Building Services. This is an application, and the owner of this property is the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. It is located north of I-90, west of I-29, and east of North Marion Road. It's roughly 422 acres. The purpose of this rezoning is to construct a major industrial development with some commercial lots along North Marion Road, and then some conservation areas within the overall project.
Thank you, Jason. Council?
Diane?
Would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, March 15th for item 9?
Second, Erickson.
On a motion to do that. Thank you, Councilor Erickson. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach? Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
That has passed 8 to 0. You have 8 to 0 or 7 to 0?
1-0.
8 to 0.
8 to 0. Item 10.
7-0.
7-0.
7-0. That's what I thought. 7-0. Item 10.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by adopting the 2015 International Fire Code and amendments thereto.
Council, Dean Lanier, Fire Marshal of Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. I'm here to provide a summary of the highlights of the 2015 International Fire Code adoption. I've got a few slides to go through and progress through, and then I'll offer any questions that you might have. Principles of life safety are outlined in the red highlighted areas. These are specific items that are outlined within Fire Code and provide a good background for how we protect property within the City of Sioux Falls. The principles of life safety, we use these basic strategies, these 5 strategies identified to try to prevent and reduce property loss within the city. I think both from a regional standpoint as well as a city standpoint, we do a very good job in maintaining low levels of fire loss. Our trend levels are to the positive as far as moving downward over a period of time. We track both at an annual basis and a 5-year basis for property loss within the city. I have pulled a few highlighted areas from the Fire Code to just talk about briefly. They primarily affect assembly occupancies within the City of Sioux Falls. This first provision of code is from Chapter 4 that principally applies to assembly occupancies. Some good examples of these would be theaters, gyms, and bars. You would note that in the highlighted red area, it does exempt churches and places of religious worship with occupants load less than 2,000 from this provision. But principally, it's there to provide a fire safety and evacuation plan for assembly occupancies. The next provision of code is in the 403 section and defines some seating requirements for, again, these larger assembly occupancies within the city. They just require a correct number of seats based on the exit capacity of a facility. You would notice that if you ever go to an event at the Pentagon or Event Center, that oftentimes, depending upon the act that's coming into that venue, the floor plan can change, allowing different seating configurations, and this just allows for flexibility within that seating plan. Again, with assembly occupancies, there are announcement requirements that are being adopted into this provision of code. If you've been to a theater lately, you've probably noticed that there is an announcement before the playing of a movie. It provides an audible announcement that tells the occupants exactly where the exits are located within that assembly occupancy and where to go in case of an emergency. So this is becoming an industry standard already, and we are just applying it across all assemblies rather than just primarily to theaters. Also within assembly occupancies, we have the requirement of having a fire evacuation plan. This provision of code principally defines staff duties for those that are responsible for these larger assembly occupancies. So as you could probably imagine, if we have a large event inside the event center, you need enough security staff on hand to be able to manage a crowd of 12,000. Staff training is another new requirement. It provides for requirements that staff should have who are working security within a large event. Sioux Falls Fire Rescue has made this training available for free to the larger event venues that provide these type of assembly occupancies. Finally, into some more specific areas of code, there was a change summary provided for photovoltaic power systems. We find these being used more and more within the City of Sioux Falls, both in commercial and residential occupancies. They're there principally to provide protection to firefighters and those that might be in close proximity to a photovoltaic power system. They are high-powered arrays, so they can produce quite a bit of electricity that could be of a hazard to an individual or a firefighter. Assembly occupancies on roofs was an addition to the fire code. It provided for sprinkler coverage on a rooftop or bar or theater or restaurant type application that's on an elevated section of a building. This is a new provision of code that did nothing more than just specify that fire sprinklers are required for those levels below that assembly occupancy. And finally, the emergency access provisions for 1- and 2-family housing. This is a provision of code that we brought over from policy. It's had much debate through both the IRAB committee as well as public services. We identified several key provisions that will be going straight into the language of fire code, and they are centered around those 4 criteria that are outlined on this slide. Any questions?
Thank you. Council, would anybody want to set a date of hearing and second reading for Tuesday, April 5th for this item?
So moved.
That has been made by Councilor Erickson, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Councilor Rolfing?
I would like to ask that the council reconsider number 8. The reason
Councilor, there's been a motion to reconsider item number 8. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. There's been a motion to reconsider item 8. Councilor Erickson is going to recuse herself. Councilor Rolfing.
I did not realize after Councilor Erickson recused herself that it would take a vote of 5. My sole point in voting no was basically to make sure that people knew that I've been getting a lot of phone calls, and I think some of the others have too, about the way some people have been treated on this. I agree. We do not have anything to say on that. What we should have been voting on, and I probably made a mistake, is voting on just the 730 feet that we're dealing with. However, these are our neighbors, and if our neighbors are not treated correctly, then someday we may not be treated correctly either. So to make that point, I would like to say I would encourage a yes vote on this, but also make that point that we need to be neighbors on this. The PUC has already done it. Let's go forward and be friends.
This is a motion to reconsider. Councilor Stager, just one, if you don't mind, sir. Thank you. David, on the motion to reconsider, are we first just voting to reconsider it, or are we voting on the approval of the pipeline?
We would vote first on the motion to reconsider.
Okay. Councilor Stagers, would you mind if we vote on the motion to reconsider, or do you have a question on the reconsideration or on the pipeline?
Well, I guess there's just one comment I'd like to make. I mean, we're a independent city council here. We can make our own decisions. Sometimes people might not like the decisions we make, but at other times they do. So, we got to treat our neighbors nice, and many of those neighbors are happy with the vote we just had.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Councilor Bach.
Just the reconsideration is the right move because we have been involved from the beginning with the PUC hearings, and many of us were at those meetings when those neighbors were there and were able to speak out. We've all been involved in this for a long time. This reconsideration is important. Yes, we're independent, but no, we're not able to go back on our word in terms of the decisions that we've been a part of all along. Vote yes.
A roll call vote, please, on the motion to reconsider.
Councilmember Staggers.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson. Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
The motion to reconsider is passed 6-1. Do I need a new motion on the, yes, I do. Would anybody want to make a motion on?
Move it.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to approve item number 8, seconded by Councilor Karski. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Staggers.
No.
Anderson.
No.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
That is passed 5-2. Is there any further discussion on tonight's meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Been a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls.
Out of here.